rotating my flip flop.
That's okay, girl.
My dogs are barking.
It's okay.
It's a long weekend. All right. Well, gosh, well, I want to say thank you to everyone for making time to be here. I appreciate it. You know, I know I'm in a room full of people that got a million things you could be doing, but you're here right now, and I think for the same reason I am, right?
Amen.
Because we know that this is an important election.
Amen.
We know what the stakes are in this election. We've seen what happens when we got leaders who don't care about the people they're supposed to be serving. You get cities that don't have water.
Okay.
They get cut off from water after 4 years
Wow.
of dealing with poison in their water, just get cut off. You see schools that keep falling further and further behind. You see roads that are turned into gravel and destroying our cars. And you know that there are too many families that can't get ahead because their insurance bills are holding them back. I mean, we got a lot of things that we got to tackle in this election. So I've had the chance to meet a lot of you are familiar faces, a lot of friends in this room, but some of you are new, and so because of that, I'm just going to tell you just a little bit about me, but let's make it more of an exchange, because I'm not here to give a speech. I want to make sure we're talking to one another, and I'm listening, and I'm learning, and I stay focused on the things that matter in this election. But I'm running for governor because, I love this state, but I look around at the Michigan that my kids are growing up in, and it does not live up to the Michigan that I think of when I talk about my pride. There was a point in time where people used to move to our state for opportunity. A really good paying job that you could raise a family up on and retire with dignity, because organized labor created the middle class.
Right.
That's right.
This was the state people knew that no matter what area you lived in, your kids were going to have the best public school to attend. DPS was the best public school in the state. You knew that you could get to your destination safely because the roads were built and maintained, and we put money into them, so you wouldn't have to pay to fix your car because we were actually fixing the roads right.
Right.
And you know what? Every one of us could turn on the tap and know our kids were going to be safe to bathe in the water as well as drink it. Michigan families today deserve no less than that Michigan that I just described. We owe it to everyone in this state to win this election.
Yes.
This isn't about me. This isn't even about us in this room. This is about the future of this state, the families in the state who are counting on us. Now, I'm ready to do the tough work. I'm putting in the long hours. I will take the hits, but I need your help to get over the finish line. Because this is, it's a Herculean undertaking. I'm working 15-hour days, and I'm not complaining about that. I'm a hard-working person. I've had a job since I was 12 years old. This is the longest I've gone without a paycheck since I was Things are getting a little tight. But, this is every single day on the campaign trail, there's someone or something that happens that reminds me what this is all about. I could tell you a million stories, but there's one that I think is the most powerful. Not long ago, I was reading to a couple of kids at the Detroit Children's Hospital. I was asked to come in and read with some children. Now I'm reading with two boys. One was 5 and one was 11. All right, and they're in their hospital gowns. One was hooked up to an IV. And we got done reading, and the mom of the 5-year-old, her son was Malachi, and she said, what should she work on? She might be the next governor. What should she work on? And of course, this kid's 5, so he didn't know what the heck governor means. She said she might be in charge of the state. What do you think she should work on? And he thought for a second, and he said, I want everyone to be able to read.
All right.
All right, now, I don't know how many 5-year-olds you hang out with.
Right.
But they don't usually lobby for literacy,
Right.
They want later bedtime, some more candy, or, toys, right, or recess, whatever. But this kid is lobbying for literacy, and I don't think it's because he saw that crazy Betsy DeVos on 60 But maybe he knows how bad it is. But then the 11-year-old chimed in and he said, I want everyone to have clean water. Now this is a sick kid saying, I want people to have clean water. And his mom said, tell her where you're from. And his name was Corey's from Flint. All right? So I'm look at the moms finally after, you kind of soak that in for a second. I asked the moms, I said, Moms, what do you want me to work on? And they said, I just want you to fix the damn roads. you know, and one mom was particularly animated about it, and I said, what's the story? You know, there's gotta be a story. Like, that was her issue. And she had been driving down from Flint to see her son in the hospital in Detroit, hit a pothole, and it just destroyed the rim on her car.
Yeah.
So it sidelined her for the better part of a day. She couldn't see her son in the hospital. She had to figure out how to come up with the money to pay for that rim, because you cannot drive with a broken rim. You can drive with a broken windshield, but not a broken rim. And then had to figure out how to get back home in time to take care of the rest of the family.
Wow.
That's one of the many days on this campaign trail that I'm talking to people, and they're telling me what the issues are, what this election's all about, why we've got to win this election. We see the crap coming out of Lansing every single day. This stuff with the Medicaid work requirements, it is terrible what they're trying to do. I worked my tail off to make sure that Obamacare was extended here in Michigan. We have health insurance. We can't let them take it away, and we can't let them take it away from families that are just struggling to get by in this state. We got a lot of work to do. These are the things that I think are the most critical in terms of dinner table issues that I'm focusing on, but obviously there are a lot of things we gotta work on, and this is where I want you to do the talking, so that this is an exchange, so this is more of a town hall and not a speech. All right? Thank you. So who wants to get us kicked up? I know there's a lot of shy people in this room.
Right. Not here.
Okay, so we're walking the dog and we're talking to a lot of people about you.
Excuse me, I don't want to walk in front.
Oh,
God bless everybody. How y'all doing? All right, excuse us, please.
Come on in.
And a lot of them never heard of it.
Yep.
So we're telling them, but they've seen the street commercials and now they've seen the El Sayed commercials. So I guess my question is, when are we gonna have some commercials?
Yes. So, well, let me say this. You know, I'm not a millionaire.
Right.
I don't have $4 million and burning a hole in a bank account that I'm gonna throw
We
away.
need to
But I am working my tail off. We have built a campaign from the grassroots up. We've set records, and I'll tell you this, 84% of all the contributions we've gotten are from Michiganders. And 83% of us are $100 or less.
Right.
That's a real grassroots movement. So while there are clever ads getting airtime right now, we will be on TV, and when we go up, we will go up in force and we will.
There you go.
But you gotta be a little more patient. Or start writing bigger checks.
So were you, in piggyback on what she's saying, so I'm hearing that same thing too, primarily, and that's from seniors and people, and they smile, they say, I really want to know her. I heard about this lady. So in piggyback to that, and I know you don't have that money, I like the commercial you just gave. That would be perfect for telling that. But something, I think I would like to suggest that we, as an urgency, use something. If we could all think about that today and come out of here with some ideas today. Because sooner is better than later at this point.
Yep. Well, that's helpful. You know, that's a great suggestion. So, you know, I've been getting into the churches. We are building a number of community events. We are going to be starting to knock the doors. I mean, I think that those are all really important pieces of making sure that we get the message out. But you know what? The most powerful thing for anyone to hear is from someone in this room.
There you go. Word of mouth.
So maybe since you don't have the money, I'm going to shut up after this though. As opposed to suggestions, then you're going to have to get people out every day, every weekend or whatever, knocking on the doors in those key areas.
Every area.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we're getting yard signs real soon. Like we start having more visible
And if we
things
could get
too.
more donations to you from each meeting, I know this is a lie, and that means I gotta get some money. But if we could help, you could probably put a sketch together, what kind of money do you need? If people want to, like we in this meeting and we say, hey, We need a sign.
Let's pass the bucket around now.
Yeah,
do it.
I'm suggesting that as a fundraiser. I know that's putting us all on the spot, including me.
She got her checkbook
Including
out.
me.
No, I don't. Not yet anymore.
All right, now you get the next question.
But I have questions and full transparency. Yeah, you're right. I'm willing to pull my checkbook out, but I'm still undecided. And you and I, we've met on a few occasions. So, although I'm leaning a little bit more, but I'm still not 100%, you know, which is why I'm here. So, actually, it's two separate questions, because what bothers me so much with folks who come in and they want our vote and they tell us the flowery language, their campaign literature is all very general and vague. I'm looking for a few specifics. The two questions where I'm looking for a little more specifics in terms of a specific example of how you plan to do something. One of the main things you talk about, and is very important to me, is holding government accountable. Everyone says that because they know this is an electorate that is pissed off with government. So we say that thinking, well, that person's gonna get up there and they're gonna fight and hold government accountable. I'd like to know if you can give me at least 2 examples of how you plan to do that within your first year of office. That's one. My second question is ironic that you reference literacy, because I think I was reading a report in 2017 where it talked about the state assessment for 3rd graders, and how I think in the state of, I mean, we were abysmal. It was at 56% or 39%, whatever it was terrible. And I just learned recently that there's this new 3rd grade reading law, which again, I think is a good thing to prepare kids. But the funding to ensure that communities that do not have the resources, that are stigmatized with overcrowding, what again will you do to ensure that these communities have the resources to prepare the students? So 2 questions. One, really, how are you going to hold government accountable? And 2, specific in terms of helping in the educational realm with communities that don't get the resources and the support that they need.
Okay. So I'm gonna, in a weird way, combine your
That's fine.
questions and an
That's
answer,
fine.
right? So first and foremost, you asked about government accountability.
Yep.
You know, no one even believes that anyone wants to do it, because everyone talks about when they don't do anything,
Right.
right? Here's the thing. Part of the reason that I think so many of us have lost faith in our government is because they say one thing and they do the other. They act as though the rules don't apply to them. They're supposed to apply to everyone else, but not to them. You know, I have always believed that the school aid fund, the money that's supposed to be going to our kids' schools, should be going to our kids' schools.
Right.
Under Governor Granholm, they started pulling money out of the school aid fund to backfill holes in the general fund, all right? I took her on that one because I knew that would be the start of something that could really be dangerous for the state. Now, it was supposed to be a one-time thing, and it wasn't a big thing, but it was the start. And under the Republicans, it has absolutely grown and eroded our public schools to the tune of $750 million are taken out of our kids' schools to backfill the general fund. You know what? Kids don't have lobbyists. Kids don't get write checks. Yeah, we've got teachers who are, you know, can join their voices, but they've been attacking them as well, so that they're not, you know, they're not as strong as they were. And so, who's there to fight for the children? And so our kids are paying to shore up the rest of the budget. And what happened to our schools? Well, schools that used to lead the world are now back of the pack. So I believe that we should have, I introduced a constitutional amendment to say that every dollar in that school aid fund should be going to our schools. I, as governor, can use the veto pen and write the budget so that every one of those dollars goes to where it's supposed to be. But I still want to get that constitutional amendment passed, because yes, I'm going to win this race. We're going to set the agenda. We're going to fix a lot of these issues, but I don't want to hand it off to someone else who can abuse it again.
Okay, so if you all have not been to a Gretchen event, I am Malia Howard. I am the question wrangler. So I see and I know and so I will keep count, okay? So I'll point at you when it's time for your question. I know Tom, Mike, baby in the back, you know. That's my baby. What's your name, sweetheart?
Steron. Steron Baxter.
Saran. And someone, and this young lady. What's your name?
Pat Shelton.
Pat, okay. All right. Okay, hold on. So, come on, baby. Come on, Dion, what's your question?
So, you just talked about education holding the government accountable. One of the things that Governor Snyder did was fund Michigan First Robotics Program. They just hosted their first national championship down at Cobo. Put $3 million into that program statewide. As governor, would you be willing to write that into your budget for a 10 or 20-year plan so that does not get defunded within inside of DPS or within inside of the educational system?
Yeah, so let's start with this. I am not that fool in the White House who's gonna go in and undo everything the guy before me did. I recognize that Governor Snyder has done maybe a few things okay, and maybe we should look at keeping them. I wish I could tell you I could guarantee it'll be there for 10 or 20 years, but a budget happens every single year. I can guarantee this, that as governor, it will remain a priority of mine for every year that I'm writing the state budget.
Thank you.
In regards to right to work, that's one question. And also, this thing about they make a law and they tack an appropriations to where it can't be repealed. I mean, there should be nothing that can't be repealed.
There you go.
You know, when you get to big government, this right to work and, you know, this thing like the Proposition 4, they turned into 436, I thought that was the most egregious, because they just walked all over us when we voted no on that emergency management.
All right.
So,
All right. Okay. With regard to right to work, I was on the front line fighting back when they pushed through what they call right to work. And I think we gotta stop using their language. I mean, we should call it corporate servitude, what it really is, right? But when they pushed it through, you know, I was on the other side, but I was the leader of a Democratic caucus of 12. We were outnumbered 2-1 in the Senate because of gerrymandering, by the way, which has gotta be another thing we gotta talk about here. I am absolutely, I believe in the right to collectively bargain. I believe that's what creates the middle class. Now, I've done 15 months of debates and forums with my fellow Democrats. And you know what? The other people that are running for governor on our side of the aisle, they're good people. I'm not gonna say a negative thing about it. But here's what separates me. I served in the legislature and I know how to use every lever of power in that office. I'm not gonna say something that can't be done. I hear them say on day one, I'll get rid of right to work. That's not true. No one can do that. I'm sorry to be real honest, because it's hard to hear that, but it's a fact. We gotta start playing the short game and the long game better. We gotta win all these races this year and change redistricting so we have a real opportunity to get to the right to work repeal to my desk so I can sign that thing in the law.
We need to take time in the state house, or we're gonna be on a failed 8-year agenda again, like we had with Grand Home.
So we're gonna talk about, just real quick though, sorry, you did talk about the appropriations. So, you know, there are two kinds of bills that come out of the legislature. All right, right now, there's only one kind of bill, it's usually bad, but two kinds of bills. There's the appropriations side and there's a policy, right, a standing committee side. Now, appropriations is the state budget. The people do not have the right of referendum on a state budget bill. So these guys have gotten real clever. When they pushed through emergency management, what did they do? They got it passed. We, the people, rejected it at the polls.
That's right.
We had a referendum. We said no. What did they do? They passed it again and they put money in it to make it a budget bill. Just a small amount of money. Cut out our right to referendum. So here's my promise. I will never sign a bill into law that has a little bit of money in it to avoid your right of referendum.
And two, we gotta amend our constitution so that no future legislature
Yes.
and governor
Right.
can do an end run on the people again. It's undemocratic, it's unpatriotic, and we are all paying the worst kind of price for a legislature that doesn't have to listen to us.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan, is it real quick?
It's real quick, and then
Yes
it's
or no?
piggybacking off of what he just talked about. So one of your opponents was on Mr. Gaddis' show this morning and stated that same statement that once I become governor, I'm going to overturn the emergency managership. So what? And I'm not saying be combative, but you have to hold people accountable when they do not know policy, they do not know politics. They can't overturn that. So you or your team need to come out and say that. And these people that are trying to run for positions that they have no accountability, they don't know anything about, we need to get them out of the race, and we need to show that.
Wait, I gotta go on order, Brandon, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I just want to say, I really hope that after 7 years of Rick Snyder and 14 months of Donald Trump, we're ready to hire someone who knows what the heck they're doing.
Right.
You got to take.
You gotta.
We got it. All right, Tamika, Tamika and I spent a lot of time at church together. You should have come with us. I got on the pole. I was on a roll.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was so good. Yeah. Mike, go over.
So, I live, and many of us in this room probably live in the 4th congressional district in the country, here in the 13th, and I also live in the city of Westland, where we have a median income of $43,000 per household. And one of the things that I think is criminal in this state is that we all pay the same 4.25% flat tax as the big rich cats living in Birmingham, Bloomfield, and the same 4.25% as the Maroon family, the Illich family, and the Gilbert family. As governor, if the legislature brings it across your desk, would you support a graduated income tax to put more revenue into communities, into schools, and into the state of Michigan, into people?
Yes.
Next question.
Oh, sorry, the question wrangler wasn't paying attention. No, because I got an order, y'all. Back in the back, yes. Come up so we can see you.
How are you doing? So, I am an Iraq War veteran. I'm a disabled veteran. And I work with homeless veterans all of the time. Michigan is 46th, I believe we might be 47th now, in the country in its spending on veterans. Many of the veterans that I see that live in the homeless shelters, they are Vietnam-era veterans, which makes them seniors. Right. What is happening when these people are put on a time limit to live in these shelters and they are not receiving certain HUD-VASH vouchers or they are not eligible for their benefits, they are then put out of those facilities, which for a senior is a death sentence. Yes. So as governor, how do you plan on changing Michigan's position in its spending on veterans to be able to help alleviate some of those issues? I will say this one last thing. In the state of Indiana, you have to be 30% service connected in order to receive your tax benefits to be able to get your housing and for your children to be able to attend college in the state. In the state of Michigan, you have to be 100%. Well, it's nearly difficult. It's ridiculous. You can't even get a call back most of the time when you're going to be screened to get your services. So we are literally sending people to die in the cold.
So, well, first of all, I want to get your contact information before
You have to tell her what you do.
Oh, okay, so I run an organization called Best for Vets. I wasn't trying to do this, folks. So.
No, I'll
So I run an organization called Best for Vets. We're a 501c3 that focuses on bettering the lives of veterans as a whole. We do it a fully canvassing thing. And so this is something that's very near and dear to my heart because we have board members that come to our meetings, never miss a meeting, and then go sleep on a cot at a shelter. So it is very real to me. And I know that part of it, you know, the Bible says wine is for merry men, but money solves all things. So we're not putting the money into our veterans here in the state. And when veterans win here, we win all over. The two biggest, in the last 50 years, we had Coleman A. Young, Tuskegee Airmen, and Mike Illich, who was a Marine. They literally changed this area, and those are just two veterans. So imagine what we can do with all of those who have come back.
Well, I think you just pointed out another really sad way that Michigan is in the back of what the rest of the country is doing, right? we've got, you know, a veterans home in Grand Rapids that they privatized. And veterans were not being cared for. They were falsifying reports, all in the name of one company making money and displacing unionized employees, right? We've seen, you know, the lack of, they're not drawing down all the federal dollars that are even available for veterans in our state. So when you talk about that discrepancy, I think that plays a big role in it, because most of those dollars are coming from the feds, but they gotta be a priority in the state budget. And there's gotta be a structure to, you know, make sure that it's getting where it needs to be into, you know, organizations, really like yours, which I would really like to get to know you personally better, but also the work that you're doing. But I know that, you know, I was a prosecutor in Ingham County for 6 months. But it was a weird thing. The prosecutor before me left after a scandal, and the judges asked me to come in and clean up the prosecutor's office. And I did a ride-along, like on my second, you know, third, fourth night as prosecutor. And one of the most vivid things that happened that night was an Iraq war vet, Purple Heart, who was in distress. And, you know, the call had come in, and he was driving around, and he had some weapons, and so his wife was a little nervous that he was out and about and in distress. We got to him, you know, and the only question was, does he go to jail, or does he go to the emergency room?
Right,
There's no
right.
mental health facility. So I recognize what you're saying. I know it to be true, and it is something that I am absolutely, you know, focused on drawing every resource we can to help the people of the state, especially people that serve our country. I mean, it's we're grateful for your service.
Yes,
Hi, my question really is, I hear what you're saying the things we need to hear. How, with your background and experience, what are you gonna do, what steps are you gonna take to get some of these things done? Are you looking at that now? What are you doing to shine above those that are running, who have no clue? Have you been to other states and compare the ones that are doing well in XYZ? Can you bring that here? Tell us and explain to us what you can do to make this work in the state of Michigan.
Sure.
That's what I'm not hearing.
Yeah, thank you. That's a perfect question, because it's not just tapping in and saying I see the problems, although that is part, right? That's one, that's very important, that you understand what the problems are. But then you gotta have a plan to solve them. When I talk about, you know, my passion is education, all right? I wanna fix those roads. I want, you know, there are a lot of things on my agenda. But you know what? We gotta get education right in this state for every child in Michigan. You know, how can we get more resources into our schools? Well, just by drawing a line and protecting that school aid fund dollars immediately increases all those resources. But then we gotta allocate them in a way that really lifts kids up. Kids in high poverty cost more to educate. It's just that simple. And so I believe that it's time for a weighted foundation allowance. I believe it is time that we infuse more money into educating, because right now we got a governor who's been slashing education and an attorney general who's in court who says the children of Michigan don't have a constitutional right to literacy. I think they're both wrong, dangerously wrong, and that's why we have learned what other states do in terms of literacy. When you wrap our youngest kids around with the supports that they need, they're literate by the end of 3rd grade. These guys in Lansing right now punish you if you're not reading by the end of 3rd grade by holding you back or punishing the school district. What we're gonna do is use those resources from holding the line on the school aid fund to make sure every child, all those children have literacy coaches and social workers and smaller class sizes and nurses, especially kids in high poverty districts. Because the same child in a high poverty district costs a lot more to educate there than they do in a wealthier district.
Why is that?
Because of all of the challenges that come with having more kids in poverty. It's harder to educate. It's just the reality. It's not a judgment on the child, it's a judgment on the concentration of challenges within a district. So we have to infuse more resources. Right now, we're doing it totally backwards. There are kids in wealthier districts who are getting more and they need less. And the opposite at the other end of the spectrum. And that's why I believe in a weighted foundation allowance, so that we really can make our education system the place that elevates. But I don't wanna bring anyone down, I wanna make sure we're infusing more and lifting our kids up. Cause you know what? We rank dead last in the Midwest in reading and in math, for fourth graders and eighth graders. We rank in the bottom 10 in our country, you know, in math and reading. It is, everyone wants to talk about moving our economy forward. If you don't fix the education problem, none of the other things is gonna make our.
I'm sorry. Hold on, baby, I have two questions ahead of you.
Good evening, nice to see you again. So, hearing what you said as far as having a plan in the sense of resolve. So I'm an advocate for Equality Michigan. I'm also a founding board member of the Trans-Sisters of Color Project here in Detroit. And on campaign trails, you hear a lot of rhetoric about people that care about members of the LGBT community, but you never hear a specific plan on resolve or what the next steps is. I know the next steps because I deal with the community, I take the statistics. In America, it is alarming how trans women of color are murdered in the streets every day, and no one says anything about it. So I just partnered with a representative from the United Nations and the Department of Justice to write a shadow report to sequester America in front of the United Nations. But what we need to do seriously is get the Elliott Larson Act amended to cover sexual orientation and gender. And I want to know what is your position on that, and are you willing to be a strong ally with me to help save our people?
Yes, let me tell you this, So, when I was in the legislature, you know, I kept pushing for anti-bullying protections in our schools. All right, it was motivated by a young man from East Lansing. I live in East Lansing, and this young man in my district had taken his own life. He was bullied so badly. One of the most astounding things you ever see is a parent who turns an incredible loss into a cause to help other people, right? And so his parents became advocates on behalf of the LGBT community in our schools. We pushed for 8 years to try to get some anti-bullying protections done. We were this close, and at the last minute, on the floor of the Michigan Senate, the right wing took over and wanted to carve out protections because they said that you could not be accused of bullying if it was for a personal or religious reason. Right. So it was a license to bully, basically. And I took him on the Senate floor. I lost the vote that day, but the speech I gave went viral, and it changed the whole trajectory of it. And ultimately, the House worked with me and the dad of that young man to write a bill that protects kids in our schools. This is not a fight that I am new to. And when I was the Senate Democratic leader, we were this close to getting you know, the whole LGBT community covered by Elliott Larson. And at the last minute, they decided to carve out the transgender community. And they said, oh, a step forward's good enough for you. And we said, hell no. The community stands together, and the transgender part of the community is the most vulnerable. We're not getting protections for some and leaving the most vulnerable behind.